I spent $20,000 on love, then I discovered I was just his American ladder. What I did next shocked everyone.
Rachael adjusted her face mask as she stepped out of the ICU, her scrubs soaked with sweat after another grueling 12-hour shift at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York. At 32, she had everything she'd worked for: a respected career as a registered nurse, a cozy one-bedroom apartment in Queens, and a salary that allowed her to send money home to Nigeria every month. But as she scrolled through her phone on the subway ride home, watching her friends' Instagram stories filled with engagement photos, gender reveal parties, and family vacations, the familiar ache of loneliness settled in her chest like a stone. It was December, and Rachael hadn't been home to Lagos in almost 8 years. Her mother had passed 3 years ago, and the guilt of not being there for the funeral still haunted her. Her work visa situation had been complicated then, and she couldn't risk leaving the country. Now, with her green card finally secured, she had no more excuses. When her cousin Amaka sent her a voice note begging her to come home for Christmas, "Rachael, I beg now, we miss you die. Plus, I want to introduce you to some correct guys. You know fit dey America they all alone like this." Something inside her shifted. Maybe it was time. Maybe going home would help her figure out what was missing in her carefully constructed American life. The flight from JFK to Lagos was packed with Nigerians returning home for the holidays, the cabin filled with the familiar sounds of Pidgin English, Yoruba, and Igbo. Rachael felt something loosening in her chest as she listened to the conversations around her. Arguments about politics, laughter about American winter, complaints about the Naira exchange rate. When the plane finally touched down at Murtala Muhammed International Airport at 5 a.m. and she felt the thick Lagos humidity hit her face as she stepped onto the tarmac, tears sprang to her eyes. She was home. Amaka's house in Lekki was a sprawling compound with high walls, a generator that actually worked, and enough security lights to illuminate a small stadium. The Christmas party was already in full swing when Rachael arrived on Christmas Eve, her aunt's jollof rice competing with her uncle's catfish pepper soup, Afrobeat blasting from speakers, and relatives she hadn't seen in years pulling her into embraces that smelled of expensive perfume and palm oil. America has been treating you well, oh," they exclaimed, though she caught the whispered questions. "But where is her husband? At this age, what is she waiting for?" She was helping her cousin set out bottles of wine when Amaka grabbed her arm with barely contained excitement. "Babe, come, I want you to meet somebody." She practically dragged Rachael across the lawn to where a tall, handsome man stood talking with some other guests. He wore a crisp white shirt and black trousers, his wristwatch catching the light, expensive but not showy. When he turned and smiled at them, Rachael felt her breath catch. He was gorgeous, with smooth dark skin, a neat beard, and intelligent eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. "Rachael, this is Derek. Derek, this is my cousin I've been telling you about, the big-time nurse in New York," Amaka said with a wink, before conveniently disappearing. Derek extended his hand, his grip firm but not aggressive. "It's a pleasure to meet you. Amaka has talked about you non-stop for the past week. According to her, you are basically saving lives and taking names in America." His accent was educated Nigerian, the kind that came from good schools and international exposure. "I wouldn't say all that," Rachael laughed, feeling suddenly self-conscious. "I just do my job." "Just your job? Being a nurse in America? That's not something to downplay. My sister is trying to get into nursing school here, and the competition is insane. What you've accomplished is really impressive." The conversation flowed easily after that. Derek explained that he was a software developer, working primarily with fintech startups in Lagos and trying to build his own app. "The tech scene here is actually booming," he said, his eyes lighting up with passion. "But the infrastructure is challenging. Constant power outages, internet issues, and clients who want Silicon Valley quality at Ikeja prices." He laughed, but she could hear the frustration underneath. They talked for hours about his dreams of expanding his business internationally, about her experiences navigating the American healthcare system, about Nigerian politics, and whether anything would ever really change. When the party finally wound down around 2 a.m., Derek asked if he could see her again before she returned to America. Rachael said yes without hesitation, ignoring the warning voice in her head that whispered, "Be careful." Derek didn't waste time. The very next morning, Rachael's phone buzzed with a message. "Good morning, beautiful. I hope you slept well. I can't stop thinking about our conversation last night. Would you like to grab lunch today? I know a great spot in Victoria Island." Rachael stared at the message, her heart doing a little dance. It had been so long since a man pursued her like this. Direct, confident, interested. In America, dating felt like a job interview, but this felt natural. They met at a fancy restaurant overlooking the Lagos Lagoon. Derek was already there when she arrived, standing to pull out her chair like a true gentleman. Over plates of grilled fish and fried plantains, he asked her real questions, not the surface-level small talk she was used to, but deep things. What made you choose nursing? Do you ever regret leaving Nigeria? What does happiness look like to you? And he actually listened to her answers, his eyes never leaving her face, nodding and asking follow-up questions that showed he genuinely cared. "Can I be honest with you?" Derek said as they finished eating. "I'm 35 years old and I'm tired of games. I'm tired of Lagos women who only care about what car you drive or which club you can get them into. When Amaka told me about you, a woman who left Nigeria with nothing and built a whole career in America, I knew I had to meet you. You are special, Rachael. You are the kind of woman a man builds a future with, not just wastes time with." His words melted something inside her. Here was a man who saw her value, who wasn't intimidated by her success. By the time they said goodbye that evening, Rachael was already falling. The next 2 weeks were like a dream. Derek showed up every single day. He took her to the beach at Elegushi, to the art galleries in Ikoyi, to local spots where they ate suya and drank Chapman. He introduced her to his friends, young professionals like himself, ambitious and educated. He was attentive without being clingy, romantic without being cheesy. And when he kissed her for the first time on New Year's Eve, as fireworks exploded over Bar Beach, Rachael felt like Cinderella at the ball. For the first time in years, she wasn't lonely. For the first time in years, she felt chosen. On Rachael's last night in Lagos, before her flight back to New York, Derek took her to a quiet restaurant in Ikeja. He seemed nervous, playing with his water glass, his usual confidence shaking. "There's something I need to tell you," he started, and Rachael's heart sank. Here it comes, she thought. He's married, he has a woman. This was too good to be true. But what Derek said surprised her. "I'm broke, Rachael, not struggling, broke. My business is failing. I have maybe 3 clients and they pay me peanuts. I live in a 1-room apartment in Yaba and I share a bathroom with 5 other people." Rachael blinked, confused. "But the nice clothes, the restaurants, the places you've taken me?" Derek looked ashamed. "I borrowed money. From friends, from my sister. I wanted to impress you. I wanted you to see the man I'm trying to become, not the man I am right now. And now I feel terrible because you are leaving tomorrow and I haven't been honest with you." He covered his face with his hands. "I'm sorry. You probably think I'm pathetic. A 35-year-old man who can't even afford to take a woman on a proper date without borrowing money." Something shifted in Rachael's chest. Instead of feeling deceived, she felt moved. He could have lied to her. He could have let her leave without ever knowing. But he chose honesty even though it made him look bad. She reached across the table and took his hands. "Derek, I don't care about your money. Do you think I fell for you because you took me to fancy restaurants? I fell for you because of who you are, because you listen when I talk, because you make me laugh, because for the first time in 8 years, I don't feel alone." Tears welled up in Derek's eyes. "You don't know what that means to me. God, Rachael, I don't want you to leave tomorrow. These past 2 weeks have been the best of my life." "Then don't let me leave," Rachael heard herself say. "I mean, yes, I have to go back to New York, but this doesn't have to end. We can do long distance. We can make this work." Derek shook his head sadly. "Long distance between Nigeria and America? That's not fair to you. You need someone who can be there for you, not someone you can only see through a phone screen." But Rachael was already making plans in her mind. What if you came to America? You're a software developer. You could find work easily there. The tech industry is booming. You could make real money, enough to... "Rachael, stop," Derek interrupted gently. "Do you know what a US visa costs? Do you know how hard it is to get approved? I've tried twice before and got denied both times. The embassy thinks every young Nigerian man is trying to run away. And even if by some miracle I got approved, I can't afford the fees. I can't afford the flight. I'm telling you, I'm broke. This is just a beautiful dream that has to end." He looked so defeated, so resigned to losing her. And Rachael, whose whole life had been about solving problems and fixing things, made a decision that would change everything. "What if I helped you with the visa, the fees, everything?" Derek's head snapped up. "What? No, Rachael, I can't let you do that. Do you know how much a visa costs? Plus the lawyer fees, the medical exams, all of it. We're talking thousands of dollars. I can't take your money like that." But Rachael had already made up her mind. Over the past 8 years in America, she'd saved aggressively. She lived in a small apartment, cooked most of her meals, rarely traveled. She had about $50,000 in savings, money she'd been keeping for what? She didn't even know. For some future that never seemed to arrive. For some life that never seemed to start. Maybe this was what it was for. Maybe Derek was what it was for. "Listen to me," she said firmly. "I'm 32 years old. I've spent the last 8 years working myself to death, living alone, saving money for no reason. And then I come home and meet you, someone who sees me, really sees me, someone who makes me feel alive again. You think I'm going to let money stop us? You think I care more about my savings account than about my happiness?" Derek looked torn between hope and guilt. "But what if it doesn't work out? What if you spend all that money and then realize I'm not worth it? I couldn't live with myself." "Then we make sure it works out," Rachael said simply. "Derek, I'm not some foolish woman throwing money at a man I just met. I'm making an investment in us, in our future. You come to America, you get established in the tech industry there, and when you're on your feet, you can pay me back if that makes you feel better. But honestly, I don't care about the money. I care about not spending the rest of my life wondering what if." She could see him wavering, hope starting to bloom in his eyes. "Are you sure? Are you really sure about this? Because once we start this process, there's no going back. We'd have to get married for you to come on a fiancé visa. It's a whole legal thing, not just..." "I know what it means," Rachael interrupted. "I've been in America for 8 years. I know how immigration works. You'd come on a K1 fiancé visa, we'd get married within 90 days, and then we'd file for your green card. I'm not scared of that, Derek. Are you?" The question hung in the air between them. Derek stared at her for a long moment, and then a smile slowly spread across his face, that beautiful smile that had caught her attention at the Christmas party. "No," he said quietly, "I'm not scared. If you're really offering this, if you really want to do this, then yes, let's do it. Let's build a life together." They spent the rest of the evening planning. Rachael would go back to New York and start the visa process immediately. She'd find an immigration lawyer, file all the paperwork, and handle all the fees. Derek would gather his documents from Nigeria, birth certificate, police clearance, medical records. The process would take 6 to 8 months, the lawyer would tell them later. 6 to 8 months of waiting, of phone calls and video chats, of counting down the days until Derek could join her in America. As Rachael boarded her flight the next morning, Derek held her tight at the airport. "I promise you, you won't regret this," he whispered in her ear. "I'm going to make you so happy, Rachael. I'm going to be the husband you deserve. We're going to build an empire together. Just watch." And Rachael believed him. She believed every word. Back in New York, Rachael threw herself into the visa process with the same intensity she brought to her nursing work. She hired an immigration lawyer named Mrs. Chen, a no-nonsense Chinese-American woman who'd been handling K1 visas for 20 years. "I'll be straight with you," Mrs. Chen said during their first meeting. "This process is expensive and stressful. The K1 visa alone cost about $2,000 in government fees. My legal fees are another $5,000. Your fiancé will need medical exams in Nigeria, police clearances, certified translations of documents, add another $2,000. Then there's the flight to America, and once he gets here, you have to file for adjustment of status within 90 days, which is another $2,000 in fees plus my legal fees. All in, you are looking at about $20,000, maybe more." Rachael swallowed hard but nodded. $20,000, almost half her life savings. But what was money compared to love? Compared to ending the loneliness that had eaten at her for years? "Let's do it," she said. Mrs. Chen raised an eyebrow. "You sure? You've only known this man for 2 weeks. I'm not trying to be in your business, but I've seen a lot of visa marriages go bad. Once these men get their green card, sometimes they..." "I'm sure," Rachael interrupted, a bit more sharply than she intended. Mrs. Chen shrugged. "Okay, your money, your life. Let's get started." The paperwork was insane. Rachael had to prove she made enough money to support Derek, submitting pay stubs, tax returns, employment letters. She had to write a detailed statement about how they met, how their relationship developed, why they wanted to get married. She had to provide photos of them together, phone records showing they communicated regularly, anything that proved their relationship was real and not just a scam for a green card. It was invasive and exhausting, turning their love story into evidence to be judged by immigration officers who probably saw fake relationships every day. But Derek made it bearable. Every single day he called her, sometimes twice a day, once in the morning before she went to work and once at night before she went to bed. He sent her voice notes telling her he loved her, that he was counting down the days until they could be together. He texted her motivational quotes when he knew she had a hard shift coming up. He video called her on her days off and they'd spend hours just talking about everything and nothing. "I'm learning to cook American food for you," he announced one day, showing her a disaster of a kitchen behind him. "I tried to make mac and cheese and it came out like I don't even know what. But by the time I get to America, I'll be a master chef. Just watch." Rachael laughed, feeling her heart expand with affection. This was what partnership looked like, wasn't it? Someone who made an effort, who tried to meet her halfway, who thought about their future together. Her co-workers noticed the change in her. "Girl, you're glowing," her friend Keisha said one day in the break room. "What's going on? You meet somebody?" Rachael couldn't help the smile that spread across her face. "I did, back home in Nigeria over Christmas, and he's coming here. We're getting married." Keisha's eyes went wide. "Hold up, you met him 2 months ago and you're getting married? And he's coming from Nigeria? Rachael, are you sure about this? You know there are a lot of people who..." "I know what you're going to say," Rachael cut her off. "But Derek's not like that. He's genuine. He loves me. You'll see when you meet him." 6 months later, in August, Rachael got the email that changed everything. Derek's K1 visa had been approved. He had 90 days from the date of approval to enter the United States, and then they had 90 days after that to get married. Rachael screamed so loud in her apartment that her neighbor banged on the wall. She immediately called Derek, not even caring that it was 2 a.m. in Lagos. Baby, we got approved. Your visa is approved," she shouted when he answered, his voice thick with sleep. There was a moment of silence, and then Derek let out a whoop that probably woke his entire building. Are you serious? Are you serious right now? Oh my God, Rachael, we did it! We actually did it! She could hear the emotion in his voice, could hear him crying. I can't believe this is real. I'm coming to America. I'm coming to you. After all these months of waiting, of wondering if it would ever happen. They both cried on the phone for a while, overwhelmed by relief and joy and anticipation. The next few weeks were a blur of preparation. Rachael booked Derek's flight, another $2,000, and started getting her apartment ready for 2 people instead of 1. She cleared out half her closet, bought extra towels and toiletries, stocked the fridge with Nigerian ingredients she found at the African store in Harlem. She wanted Derek to feel at home immediately, to not feel like a guest in what would be his home too. Her hands shook with excitement as she arranged everything, imagining him there with her, filling the empty spaces in her apartment and her life. Derek arrived on a Wednesday evening in September. Rachael took the day off work and got to JFK Airport 3 hours early, too anxious to wait at home. When he finally emerged from customs pushing a cart with 2 large suitcases, she barely recognized him. He'd lost weight, a lot of weight. His clothes hung off him and there were dark circles under his eyes. But when he saw her, his whole face lit up with that smile she'd fallen in love with. "Rachael!" he shouted, abandoning his cart and running to her. He swept her up in a hug that lifted her off the ground, burying his face in her neck. "I'm here. I can't believe I'm actually here. I'm never leaving you again." They went straight to her apartment in Queens. Derek was quiet in the Uber, staring out the window at everything, the highways, the buildings, the billboards, the organized chaos of New York City. "It's so different," he murmured. "I knew it would be, but everything is so organized. The roads don't have potholes. The lights work. Nobody is selling stuff through the car windows." Rachael squeezed his hand. "You'll get used to it. This is home now. Our home." When they got to the apartment, Derek walked through slowly, taking in everything. "You did all this for me?" he asked, his voice thick. "The closet space, the Nigerian food, the..." "Rachael, I don't deserve you." "Yes, you do," she said firmly, wrapping her arms around him from behind. "We deserve each other. Now come on, you must be exhausted. Let's get you settled in." The first few months were everything Rachael had dreamed of. Derek was the perfect partner. Every single morning, she woke up to the smell of breakfast cooking. He'd figured out how to make scrambled eggs the way she liked them, with onions and tomatoes and just a little bit of pepper. When she came home from her 12-hour shifts, exhausted and barely able to stand, he had dinner ready, the apartment clean, and her favorite show queued up on Netflix. "Sit down like queen," he'd say, guiding her to the couch. "Let me take care of you. You work too hard." He gave her foot massages every night, listened patiently to her stories about difficult patients and annoying supervisors, made her laugh with his observations about American culture. "Why do people here say, 'How are you?' but they don't actually want to know how you are?" he'd ask, genuinely confused. At the grocery store today, the cashier said, "How are you?" And when I started to actually tell her about my day, she looked at me like I was crazy. In Nigeria, if you ask someone how they are, you better have time for the full story. Rachael would laugh until her sides hurt, realizing how much she'd missed having someone to share these little moments with. Derek also threw himself into learning everything about living in America. He studied for his driver's license test, watching YouTube videos and practicing with phone apps. He went to the library every day to use their computers, saying he needed reliable internet to work on his certifications. "I want to contribute financially as soon as possible," he told Rachael. "I can't just sit here and let you carry all the weight. Once I get my work permit, I'm going to find a job immediately, even if it's not in tech at first. Maybe I can work at Amazon warehouse or drive Uber until I get something in my field." His determination touched her. Here was a man who understood what partnership meant. 3 weeks after Derek arrived, they went to the courthouse and got married. It was a simple ceremony, just them and 2 witnesses they pulled from the hallway, a Jamaican man who was there for a parking ticket, and a Polish woman waiting for her citizenship interview. The judge, an older black woman with kind eyes, smiled at them as they said their vows. "May your marriage be filled with love, patience, and understanding," she said. "Marriage is work, but it's the best work you will ever do." Rachael held Derek's hands and meant every word she said. For better or worse, in sickness and health, for richer or poorer, this was her husband, her partner, her family. After the courthouse, Derek surprised her. "I know we couldn't afford a big wedding, but I want to do something special for you," he said. He took her to a small Nigerian restaurant in the Bronx where the owner, an older Yoruba woman, had prepared a feast: jollof rice, fried plantains, moi moi, suya, and chapman to drink. "How did you?" Rachael started, tears in her eyes. "I've been saving the little bit of cash your cousin sent me for my birthday. I wanted to give you something. I know this isn't the traditional wedding you probably dreamed of, with family and dancing and everything. But one day, when I'm working and we have money, we'll do it proper. We'll go back to Nigeria and have a ceremony that your whole family can attend. I promise you that." Rachael kissed him right there in the restaurant, not caring who was watching. This man was her miracle. 2 weeks after their courthouse wedding, they met with Mrs. Chen again to file Derek's adjustment of status, the application that would change him from a visitor to a permanent resident. "Okay, this is the big one," Mrs. Chen said, spreading papers across her desk. "Once we file this, the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services will schedule a biometrics appointment, then an interview. The interview is the important part. They are going to grill you both to make sure this marriage is real. They will ask you things like, which side of the bed does your spouse sleep on? What time does she leave for work? What's her favorite food? What color is your toothbrush? Intimate details that only a real couple would know." Derek and Rachael looked at each other and smiled. "That's easy," Derek said confidently. "Rachael sleeps on the right side because she likes to be closer to the window. She leaves for work at 6:45 a.m. every morning, except Thursdays when she has the late shift and leaves at 1 p.m. Her favorite food is her mother's recipe for egusi soup, which she's been teaching me to make. Her toothbrush is purple, and she has this habit of humming gospel songs when she brushes her teeth." He reached over and took Rachael's hand. "I know my wife, Mrs. Chen. This is a real marriage." Mrs. Chen actually smiled, the first time Rachael had seen her do that. "Okay, you two are cute, I'll give you that. Let's get this filed." They filled out what felt like 100 forms, providing even more evidence than they had for the K-1 visa. Joint bank account statements. Rachael had added Derek to her account as soon as they got married. Lease agreements showing both their names, photos from their wedding day, letters from Rachael's co-workers saying they'd met Derek and that the couple seemed genuinely in love. It was invasive and exhausting, but necessary. "The filing fees are $2,000, Mrs. Chen said, plus my legal fees of $3,000, and you'll need to pay for his medical examination, another $500, plus work permit application, travel document, all that, probably another $1,000 total." Rachael wrote the checks without hesitation. They were in too deep to turn back now, and besides, this was the final step. Once Derek got his green card, he could work legally, contribute financially, and they could really start building their future together. "When will the interview be?" she asked. "Usually 6 to 8 months after we file," Mrs. Chen said. "So probably March or April. I'll prep you guys before then. Don't worry, you'll do fine." As they left Mrs. Chen's office, Derek pulled Rachael aside. "I want you to know how much I appreciate everything you've done for me," he said seriously. "The money, the time, the patience, all of it. I know I've been here for 3 months now, and I'm not contributing financially yet. I know you're carrying all the weight, but I promise you, Rachael, once I get that work permit, everything changes. I'm going to make all of this worth it. I'm going to show you that your investment in me was the best decision you ever made." Rachael kissed him, believing every word. Her husband, her partner, her future. Around the 4th month of Derek living in America, Rachael started noticing small changes. Nothing major, just little things that didn't quite add up. Derek's daily trips to the library started getting longer. He'd leave at 10 a.m. saying he was going to study for his certification exams and wouldn't return until 8 or 9 p.m. "The library closes at 6, Rachael mentioned casually one evening. Oh, I go to the 24-hour one in Manhattan, Derek explained smoothly. Better computers, faster internet, you know how slow the Queen's library is. That made sense, so she didn't push it. But then she noticed his phone habits changing. Derek had always been open with his phone, leaving it on the counter while he cooked, letting her use it if hers was dead. Now, he kept it with him constantly. He angled the screen away when texts came in. He started taking calls in the bathroom or outside the apartment. Just my sister, he'd say when she asked. You know how she worries. I don't want to bother you with family drama. Rachael wanted to believe him, but something felt off. One evening, she came home from work to find Derek video chatting with someone, speaking rapid-fire pidgin English. When he heard her keys in the door, he quickly ended the call. Who was that? She asked casually, setting down her bag. Just my guy from back home. He's working on a tech project and wanted my advice. He changed the subject quickly. How was work? You look tired. Let me heat up dinner for you. And just like that, the moment passed. But Rachael couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. She told herself she was being paranoid. This was what happened when women spent too much time on social media, reading stories about visa scammers and fake marriages. Derek loved her. He'd proven it over and over again, with his actions, his attention, his affection. So what if he was spending more time out of the apartment? He was probably just trying to give her space. So what if he was more protective of his phone? Everyone deserved privacy. She pushed the doubts down, locked them away, and focused on the interview that was coming up in 2 weeks. Once Derek got his green card, once he could work and contribute, everything would be perfect again. She just had to hold on a little longer. Mrs. Chen called them in for interview prep 1 week before the scheduled date. Okay, let's go through this, she said, looking at them seriously. The immigration officer is going to try to trip you up. They'll separate you and ask the same questions to see if your answers match. They will ask about your daily routines, your families, your relationship history, everything. If your stories don't line up, they'll deny the application and potentially charge you with immigration fraud. Do you understand how serious this is? Rachael and Derek nodded. Mrs. Chen pulled out a list of practice questions. Derek, what time does Rachael typically wake up? 5:30 a.m. on work days, 8 a.m. on days off, he answered confidently. Rachael, what's Derek's favorite food? Pounded yam and egusi soup, she replied. Derek, where does Rachael keep her work scrubs? In the closet on the left side, hung up because she doesn't like them wrinkled. Rachael, what's Derek's mother's name? She paused. She couldn't remember. Derek had talked about his family, but had he mentioned his mother's name? Grace? She guessed. Derek jumped in. It's Gloria, baby. We talked about this. Mrs. Chen raised an eyebrow. See? This is what I mean. You need to know everything about each other. They are going to ask about parents, siblings, childhood stories, everything. Go home and quiz each other. Make sure your stories are airtight. For the next week, Rachael and Derek spent every evening drilling each other with questions. They created flashcards, took practice quizzes, went over family histories until they could recite them in their sleep. Derek was especially focused, more serious than she'd ever seen him. This is everything, Rachael, he said. If this interview doesn't go well, I have to go back to Nigeria. I can't lose you. I can't lose this life we're building. The night before the interview, Rachael couldn't sleep. She lay in bed next to Derek, listening to him breathe, running through all the possible questions in her mind. What if they asked something she didn't know? What if Derek got nervous and messed up? What if the officer didn't believe them? Stop overthinking, Derek murmured, pulling her closer. We're going to be fine. We know each other. We love each other. That's all that matters. He kissed her forehead. Thank you, Rachael, for everything, for believing in me when nobody else did, for giving me this chance. I'll never forget what you've done for me. No matter what happens tomorrow, I want you to know that. His words should have comforted her, but instead, they made her uneasy. Why did it sound like he was saying goodbye? She pushed the thought away. Tomorrow would be fine. Tomorrow would be the beginning of their real life together. Tomorrow would make all the waiting, all the money, all the stress worth it. She just had to trust in what they'd built. She had to believe that love was enough. Rachael woke up on the Tuesday morning before the Wednesday interview, feeling sick to her stomach. At first, she thought it was just nerves about the immigration interview, but as she got ready for her shift at the hospital, the nausea got worse. By noon, she was throwing up in the staff bathroom. Her supervisor, Teresa, found her and took one look at her face. "Girl, you need to go home. You look terrible. Whatever you have, I don't want you giving it to the patients." Rachael tried to protest. She'd already taken so much time off for Derek's immigration stuff, but Teresa wasn't having it. "Go home. That's an order." Rachael left the hospital around 2 p.m., much earlier than usual. She felt guilty about leaving her co-workers short-handed, but she really did feel awful. Maybe she'd caught something from one of her patients, or maybe it was just the stress of everything catching up to her body. She stopped at the pharmacy to grab some ginger ale and saltine crackers, then headed back to the apartment. As she walked down the hallway to her door, she heard Derek's voice inside. He was talking loudly in a way she rarely heard him. She paused outside the door, key in her hand. She could hear him clearly. He was speaking in pidgin English, his real accent coming out strong. "No worry, babe," he was saying, his voice full of confidence and laughter. "The maga doesn't suspect anything at all. She thinks I love her, the foolish woman. Just hold small. Tomorrow I get this green card, we wait 6 months, then I divorce her sharp. After that, I sponsor you and the kids come out for Niger. This American woman not just ladder where they use climb. She don't serve her purpose." Rachel's entire world tilted on its axis. She stood frozen in the hallway, her grocery bag slipping from numb fingers. Maga, the Nigerian word for fool, for someone being scammed. He was calling her a maga. He was calling her foolish. He was planning to divorce her. He had a woman. And did he say kids? That meant more than one. He had people back in Nigeria, a family, and she was just a ladder, a means to an end. Through the door, she heard a woman's voice respond, young, high-pitched, laughing. "Ah, Derek, you too bad. But that woman really don't love you, Dio. She don't spend how much for your visa? $20,000, abi?" Derek laughed, a sound Rachael had never heard from him before, cold and calculating. "Yes, so $20,000. This American money sweet. Once I collect the green card, I go start working. 6 months, I divorce her, collect half of everything, then I bring you come. Now you be my real wife, Chidinma. This one na just business." More laughter from both of them. "But Derek, wetin go happen if she find out?" the woman asked. "Find out how?" Derek scoffed. "She dey work all the time. She no dey check my phone. She won't believe say I love her so badly that she no dey even see the signs. Tomorrow, after this interview, everything go set. My green card go dey for hand, and this maga go just dey there, dey smile like fool." Rachael backed away from the door slowly, quietly, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might explode. Every word was a knife, cutting through the fantasy she'd built. $20,000, 8 months of waiting, 4 months of playing housewife to a man who was laughing at her behind her back, who had a real wife and people, probably his family, waiting in Nigeria for him to bring them over once he used Rachael as a stepping stone. She made it to the building's lobby before the tears came. She collapsed onto a bench, her whole body shaking with sobs. How could she have been so stupid, so blind? Everyone had warned her, Keisha, Mrs. Chen, even her own instincts that she'd ignored. But she'd wanted to believe so badly, she'd wanted love so desperately that she'd ignored every red flag, every warning sign, every moment when her gut told her something was off. And now here she was, played, used, mocked, a maga, a fool, an American ladder. Rachael sat in that lobby for almost an hour, crying until she had no tears left. Then something shifted inside her. The tears stopped. The pain crystallized into something else, something cold and sharp and clear. Derek thought she was a fool. He thought she would just roll over and let him use her. He thought she was too blind to see what he was doing. He was about to learn that a woman scorned, especially a Nigerian woman who had survived 8 years in America on her own, was not someone to underestimate.